Yuppie is a term that was introduced in the early 1980s and is defined by the Oxford English Dictionary as an individual who is a member of a socio-economic group comprising young professional people working in cities. Characteristics. Author and political commentator Victor Davis Hanson has written, "Yuppism is not definable entirely by income or class. Rather, it is a late 20th century cultural phenomenon of self-absorbed young professionals earning good pay, enjoying the cultural attractions of sophisticated urban life and thought, and generally out of touch with, indeed antithetical to, most of the challenges and concerns of a far less well-off and more parochial Middle America." For the yuppie male, a well-paying job in tech, law, finance, academia or consulting in a cultural hub, hip fashion, cool appearance, studied poise, elite education, proper recreation and fitness and general proximity to liberal-thinking elites, especially of the more rarefied sort in the arts, are the mark of a real man. History. Joseph Epstein was credited for coining the term in 1982, although this is contested. The first printed appearance of the word was in a May 1980 Chicago Magazine article by Dan Rottenberg. The term gained currency in the United States in 1983 when syndicated newspaper columnist Bob Greene published a story about a business networking group founded in 1982 by the former radical leader Jerry Rubin, formerly of the Youth International Party. Greene said he had heard people at the networking group joke that Rubin had gone from being a yippie to being a yuppie. The headline of Greene's story was "From Yippie to Yuppie." East Bay Express humorist Alice Kahn claimed to have coined the word in a 1983 column. This claim is disputed. The proliferation of the word was affected by the publication of the Yuppie Handbook in January 1983, followed by Senator Gary Hart's 1984 candidacy as a Yuppie candidate for President of the United States. The term was then used to describe a political demographic group of socially liberal but fiscally conservative voters favoring his candidacy. Newsweek magazine declared 1984 the year of the yuppie, characterizing the salary range, occupations, and politics of yuppies as demographically hazy. The alternative acronym YUMPY, for Young Upwardly Mobile Professional, was also current in the 1980s but failed to catch on. In a 1985 issue of the Wall Street Journal, theoretic Kirsten Attree International described a yuppie backlash by people who fit the demographic profile yet express resentment of the label. "You're talking about a class of people who put off having families so they can make payments on the subs. To be a yuppie is to be a loathsome, undesirable creature." Leo Shapiro, a market researcher in Chicago, responded, "Stereotyping always winds up being derogatory. It doesn't matter whether you are trying to advertise to farmers, Hispanics or yuppies. No one likes to be neatly lumped into some group." The word lost most of its political connotations and, particularly after the 1987 stock market crash, gained the negative socio-economic connotations that it sports today. On April 8, 1991, Time magazine proclaimed the death of the yuppie in a mock obituary. The term has experienced a resurgence in usage during the 2000s and 2010s. In October 2000, David Brooks remarked in a Weekly Standard article that Benjamin Franklin, due to his extreme wealth, cosmopolitanism, and adventurous social life, bulged our founding yuppie. A recent article in Details proclaimed the return of the yuppie, stating that the yuppie of 1986 and the yuppie of 2006 are so similar as to be indistinguishable, and that the yuppie is a shapeshifter. He finds ways to re-enter the American psyche. Victor Davis Hanson also recently wrote in National Review very critically of Yuppies' usage outside of the United States. Yuppie was in common use in Britain from the early 1980s onwards, and by 1987 had spawned subsidiary terms used in newspapers such as Yuppiedom, Yuppification, Yuppify and Yuppie bashing. A September 2010 article in The Standard described the items on a typical Hong Kong resident's Yuppie wish list, based on a survey of 28 to 35-year-olds. About 58% wanted to own their own home, 40% wanted to professionally invest, and 28% wanted to become a boss. A September 2010 article in the New York Times defined as a hallmark of Russian Yuppie life adoption of yoga and other elements of Indian culture, such as the clothes, food, and furniture.